I seem to have this innate ability to colour code myself with the cars that we shoot. I kid you not, I didn't know. We're on an urban safari now, guys, going through a town centre. There's uneven ground, there's potholes, it's unpredictable. But that's what I love about the Panda 4x4. It's a 4x4 that genuinely is at home in a city or a town, regardless of how narrow the streets are and how congested it is. It works. Why does it work? Because it's so damn narrow. Its dimensions are so perfectly suited to urban life, city life, but yet with an underpinnings that's go anywhere, genuinely go anywhere, mountain goat spec. There's not many cars where you can be sat in the driver's seat, and I have actually got plenty of elbow room and plenty of leg room, and I can touch the passenger side window with pretty much a flat palm. I can wind down the passenger window very easily because it's about 5 foot wide. It's a 12-foot long car, this. I think I sit a little higher on these seats which Vernon's put in. These are Alfa Romeo 147 seats. Bit of a scrapyard find, I think. Now, Vernon uses his Pandas, well, the ones that work, and out of his 10 Pandas, this is his real all-terrain off-road monster. And because he's an active member of the club, they go off on adventures. They do green laning in the UK, and green laning is something where you drive off-road. It's not actually classed as off-road, it's classed as road. Look at this. Isn't it great? I mean, who doesn't like a Panda 4x4?
No, I've not met anyone yet.
No. I mean, Pandas are charming anyway. But when you put a 4x4 next to a normal one, it's just a little bit extra robust. And they're actually quite a rare car now in the UK anyway.
Yeah.
Because they were rotting when I was a kid. And I'm not a kid anymore. But I remember them always being cool. I remember noticing the badge on the back, the Steyr Pook badges, and always thinking, oh yeah, there's something about them there. They're like a little mountain goat. So what, I mean, this is your like most extreme Panda 4x4, Vernon.
Yeah.
Because as we know, there's a few other Panda 4x4s. So tell me about this one, because this is not stock. No.
This one, it was stock when I bought it.
Yeah.
I bought it from a friend. I found it for him in the first place, and he then owned it and used it around London for 6 years. And it was just a bog standard white 4x4. Looked like a two-wheel drive. It was normal ride height, what have you. And
it's not normal ride height now, is it?
Not now, no. So he gave me first refusal when he wanted to sell it, so I've got it off
of course you bought it back.
Yep.
Yeah. I've got to ask you how many Panda 4x4s you own?
10.
10?
10, yeah.
If you haven't watched the video on the car cave of which this is part of, then I'll put it up on the screen now. That little T-handle down there that you pull up to engage four-wheel drive, it's a funny little thing. It looks like a sort of an emergency exit lever, but I'm going to engage that when we go off-road in a minute, because Vernon's friendly farmer friend has got a bit of woodland that he said we can have a drive in. It'd be rude not to, wouldn't it? I've got a Panda 4x4, we need to go off-road in it. So the thing about the Panda is most of the time it's two-wheel drive, front-wheel drive. And then when you engage that, it's four-wheel drive. And there's no other four-wheel drive adjustments. You know, you haven't got gravel mode or hill descent mode or anything complicated. This is a very, very simple system. Leaf spring, back end, And that's why you have these extra badges on the back of a Panda 4x4, the Steuerpuch badges, because the drivetrain, the four-wheel drive element, is Austrian. If you've not heard of Steyr before, well, Steyr have a factory still out in Graz in Austria, and they build the Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon. That's probably the most well-known, and the Jaguar I-Pace, amongst other smaller volume, bit more specialist vehicles. Now this one rides a little bit differently because of the Vernon additions. So the ground clearance is higher, different springs, and bigger wheels, chunkier tyres. All Panda 4x4s were 5-speed. But like Vernon's told me, and like I've heard from other Panda 4x4 owners, first gear is a bit of a crawler gear. One of the funny things about the Panda is this Giugiaro designed box, and it is a box, it's a funky little box, is visually it looked almost unchanged for all of its life, although it did have some tweaks. But it's one of the cars that stayed in production for so many years with a flat windscreen. Because of course a lot of cars changed. They became more curvaceous, more advanced. Back into the, the late 80s and things, the bubble shape was becoming a thing. Not for the Panda, it wasn't. I've noticed there's some sump protection going on underneath, and there's some...
I've made the sump guard for it. The bull bar is an accessory that you could get for these anyway.
I remember seeing them wearing bull bars years ago.
Yeah. The suspension's been raised, blocks on the back between the spring and the axle.
Yeah, because they're leaf spring, right?
Yeah, still leaf spring. Yeah.
Just brilliant.
The same as the original.
Yeah.
But in '86 they went to coil spring on the back for the two-wheel drive.
Yeah.
But the 4x4 stayed with the leaf springs.
So the 4x4 came out in...
83, the Mark 1, the early one, came out in 83.
Yeah.
And then it changed to the Mark 2 in 86.
Okay. The gear shift is quite vague, I think. Quite long throw. And I know that these are quite low geared anyway, and I'm doing 50 miles an hour, there's no RPM, so I don't know what the engine's revving to, but it's quite loud. There's not a great deal of soundproofing. I mean, look, the door only has that level of trim. Everything else is bare steel. The dash doesn't really have a great deal of cladding before it's just a firewall and an engine. So, stripped back, simple. And it's funny, I've been passed by probably 3 or 4 Defender Land Rovers. I think there's a real similarity between that simple, bare bones, characterful appeal that people are attracted to with the Defender, and it's a similar thing to the Panda. The Panda gets so much respect, the 4x4, for what it's capable of achieving. Whenever you go to a ski resort in France, Italy, you will always see these, always. Why? It's obvious. Ski resorts, often narrow streets, small dwellings, high inclines, needs to be able to go anywhere, but also cheap to run, cheap to repair. There's not a lot to go wrong, frankly. Although I've been told wading can be a bit of an issue with a Panda 4x4 because of the electrics. Not because of the ground clearance and the air intake, but because of the electrics. So despite the mods, all Fiat 4x4s had this gauge pod on the top here. That's made in Japan, actually, whereas all the others are made in Italy, as you'd expect by Veglia. But yeah, I love this sort of gyroscope. gauge here with the Panda profile and rear shot. I like this, it's great. Vernon's wife's daily driver is a Fiat Panda 4x4 Cross, so a new top of the range 4x4, so he's definitely hopelessly devoted to all-terrain Pandas. Look how simple the dash is, for crying out loud. There's hardly anything there. No, on the passenger side, there's just this support bar with a cradle and a net for cargo, and that's kind of it. Those are your switches there. That's it. I love these solid stalks. They're not moulded, they're not shapely, they just look like chunky chopsticks. Single wiper. Yeah, way before touring cars were doing it, I think. Yeah. Who needs two when you could just have one? I remember as a kid in the 80s, you know, a lot of Pandas were school run cars. They were popular second cars in families. A lot of my friends used to go to school in these. And I remember seeing a lot of them with the Nerf bars, the bumper bars, to look a little bit extra rugged. Yeah, Vernon's, I think he's added that. I don't think that's original. Yeah, I love the sort of moulded rubber floor. The fact that there's no real soft furnishings on the door. There's just slipping card, piece of slipping upholstered card. That's kind of it. We're seeing the values of Pandas, the four-wheel drive ones, rise and rise because they've almost got that classless appeal. Because they're a ski resort common sight, it's become cool to like the sort of bare bones, go anywhere car with a bit of charm. Just like the Jimny, just like the Defender, those sorts of cars. I love that. I remember the plastic air intake on the bonnet of the Pandas. They always look like an upturned dustpan. Just really simple. I think we've all got carried away thinking that off-road vehicles have to be luxurious and have to be big. And that's not really the case. We associate big with luxury. Oh, but I kind of like to think those days are numbered. Cars should shrink down. Cars should be fit for purpose. You don't need a big car to do the job you want it to do. It can be roomy and small. This has a lot of room in it. The original Austin Mini had a lot of room in it.
We made our way off to a nice little track. Unfortunately, we didn't have a huge amount of time to drive the Panda off-road because the weather had been mad and we were filming Vernon's car cave with all his other Pandas and Fiats in. But we did manage to take the car on these sorts of tracks, really nice sort of green lanes, soft mud, slightly rutted, and it really showed you how simple but capable the Panda is. You lift this little lever, four-wheel drive suddenly engages rather than just front-wheel drive, and you can just drive kind of flat out really. Because the car's so light, just over 800 kilos, it sort of skips over rough terrain, and that's the joy of something like this compared to a heavier, more traditional off-road vehicle.